What's up, Warriors fans? It's your man Max here with Warriors Latest. As always, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you like what you hear, because I do post new Warriors videos daily. Now, at long last, we might actually have a potential Jonathan Kuminga proposal that gets the deal done. As we all know, the Warriors haven't been moving off their stance. They want a first round pick, or at least a starter and a first round pick in return for Jonathan Kuminga. And the latest proposal I saw in the last 24 hours might be the best one yet. Now, as we both know, I want the Warriors to get Josh Giddey in exchange for Kuminga, but the more I look at it, the harder and harder it's going to be because of just overall complications with that second apron and just finding ways to really work through that as well as not giving up too much to get Giddy back. So it isn't likely going to work. But this trade proposal actually looks pretty good. Now, the proposal itself has Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga going to the Bulls with Obi Toppin and a first round pick from Indiana returning to the Warriors and Nikolai Vucevic and a second round pick going to the Pacers. Now, I do like this because it does give them a rotational level player in Obi Toppin as well as that first round pick. A guy who's a bit of a rim runner and really knows how to stretch the court and just boom, fast break, boom, fast break, boom, fast break. And I like it for Chicago because it gets them some players that they could use. It gets them Moses Moody, which puts them on, I guess, a little more pressure on Josh Giddey to sign the deal that the Bulls have offered him, as well as Jonathan Kuminga, so they have at least something to work with on the offense. And for Indiana, let's be honest here, this is going to be a bit of a gap year. However, because the East is so wide open, the first round, letting go of an unprotected first round pick to get back a guy like Nikolai Vucevic, who had a great year last year, even though he is a bit advanced in age, isn't the end of the world. Because, look, Indy went to the finals last year. They had that taste. And unfortunately, they lost one of their best players in free agency in Miles Turner. But now that they get Vooch back, all right, they could still make a run. And while only giving up a first round pick and basically what equates to a overqualified backup to Pascal Siakam, I think that's good for them too, and it allows them to instead to dwell in the lottery to still make the playoffs, even though Halliburton is recovering from his torn Achilles. So I like that for all three teams. Now for the Warriors, like I said, it does provide them with that rim runner and the first round pick they desire. Like Obi Toppin, whether he starts or comes off the bench, is going to be an asset for the Warriors. And on top of that, should they just not find that hole for or that place for him, they can move him and still get other assets on top of that. Toppin currently is on a very team-friendly contract. His biggest problem was, I mean, he's stuck behind Pascal Siakam. Pascal Siakam, he's an all-star. There's nothing you can really do about that. It's just like it's just tough. It's like and it's like when Steve Nash was stuck behind Jason Kidd when they were both playing for the Suns. Kidd is a great player, Nash is a great player, but it's not going to work together. Or even on top of that, when Steph and Monta Ellis were playing together, it's just not going to work together, even though they're both great players, just because of the position they play and the type of players that they are. Now, Siakam and Obi Toppin, both 6'8", 6'9", smaller power forwards, while Siakam has a little more stretch for his three. Toppin is a bit faster and really can run the rim run from both sides of the courts, as well as defend on the perimeter a little bit better than Siakam. So that does add to what the Warriors want. And again, if they don't like him or he doesn't really fit the motion offense, they can work something out with him. He also works well in, I believe, the pick and pops that like the Warriors like to run, or even the pick and rolls that Steph likes to run, and that's going to play an asset. Because say, all right, they do a quick pick and roll. It's like, all right, they're both double teaming Steph. Steph just lobs it up to Toppin for an easy alley oop. So I do like that there, and maybe it'll allow, should Toppin make it into the starting lineup, it'll allow I guess Draymond and him to sort of rotate at the power forward. Sometimes Obi will be playing at the small forward, and sometimes he'll be playing at the power forward. Sometimes Draymond will be at the three. Sometimes he'll be at the four. Sometimes Toppin will be at the four. Draymond will be at the five for that small ball, and it allows the team to have a lot of options on the offense. Even though they're going to be playing smaller ball, I do like. How just his ability to get back is going to really be a benefit for the Warriors moving forward. Now, there is some downside to this trade. Again, as I mentioned, Obi doesn't exactly fill a hole that the Warriors have right now. He'd likely come off the bench, even though he is a starter caliber player. He just doesn't fit. He's not exactly a three, even though he can play there, but it's just he doesn't fill that role entirely. Like right now, the Warriors' two biggest holes are at the two, the three, whichever Jimmy doesn't want to play, as well as the five. Now we know for the five we have Al Horford coming in, but again, Al Horford is 39 years old. He's going to be 40, and yes, he can shoot from deep, but he's still old. He can't play 35 to 40 minutes a game. He'll give you at most 25 to 27 minutes, and those aren't going to be the best minutes, but he'll still give them to you. And even though he isn't going to be an essential part of the offense, his point is to stretch the floor. But again, Toppin doesn't fill that void that they need. And on top of that, we look at who the Pacers are getting. The Pacers are getting Nikolai Vucevic. That's a major trade target for the Warriors, and I've talked about him over and over and over again. He was a virtual double-double machine with the Bulls last year, and really had an amazing career-like season so late in the game. He's 34, going to be 35. It's just it's really wild how great he is and how valuable he is right now as a player. Because look, he's on an expiring contract. He's a 7-footer. He shot decently from three, and while he may be a defensive liability, like moving out to guard the perimeter, he still can really muscle with those big guys in the modern NBA. And especially in the East, that doesn't really have a lot of strong big guys. That's just a huge advantage. Like out in the West, you need a big guy who can really just muscle down low in the paint and create that interior presence. And unfortunately, Toppin doesn't. Toppin doesn't do that for the Warriors, but Vucevic would have done that for Warriors, and him going to the Pacers pretty much takes him out of play in any trade scenario. Another reason I'm not so much of a fan of this is it does get rid of Moses Moody just in exchange for Obi Toppin and the first, along with Kuminga. I mean, I am a fan in the sense that, okay, the Warriors move off a well, not a bad contract, just a long-term contract, one that goes past the 2027 or 26-27 season, where the Warriors are going to do that great reset after Steph, Draymond, and Jimmy call it a career, with Draymond most likely going to Detroit for 1 year and then calling it. But that's the biggest issue I have with it, because it just doesn't fit or not the narrative. It doesn't fit the overall scenario. Again, Toppin's contract also goes past that I guess that deadline for the or for the dynasty, but it's at least he's a little more tradable than Moses Moody, because Moody, he's just a small guard, while there are tons of small guards in today's league, though rim runners are a little more valuable. So I'll take what I can get for Toppin, or excuse me, for Kuminga. And Toppin isn't the worst, but we got to see how we can just sort of adjust to being a small forward instead of a power forward. Now, bottom line is the Warriors do need to go out and talk to Chicago, talk to Indiana, see what their interest is in this potential trade, and see if Indiana is willing to give up a first round pick in order to get a major player and fill a void during that gap year with Tyrese Halliburton out. Now, I know the Bulls would be interested in this. The Warriors, if they can get back Toppin and that unprotected first round pick from Indiana, they're definitely going to be interested in this. It's really just about convincing Indiana, because again, they don't want, after tasting the finals, they don't want to go full, like, just toilet, or what's it called, a gap year, and go full toilet for a year, and then when Tyrese comes back, go straight up from there. Because we don't know what they're going to get as a first round pick. If they get Vucevic, they have the ability to stay competitive. They have the bench to stay competitive. And in all honesty, they're giving up a first round pick that's going to be a middle to later first round pick if they make the playoffs. And that isn't the worst thing because the odds outside of the lottery aren't great. It's more the player's success is more dependent on the player development team with the team that drafts them. So, like I said, you're just because you're drafted top 5 doesn't mean you're going to be a great player, even though usually teams in the top 5 do look for players that are potential stars, but it isn't a guarantee. We've all seen top 5 picks, excuse me, just completely flop after a few years. So it's not the end of the world. We all know what happened to Marcus Bagley. Bad player development can lead to a terrible career. Now he went from a number 2 overall pick, getting selected ahead of Luka Doncic and Trae Young, to being a backup with the Wizards, I believe. Yeah, he did re-sign with the Wizards, but that's all he is right now. And this is a guy that I watched personally while he was at Duke. He was hitting threes like they were nothing. He even gave DeAndre Ayton a run for his money at number 1 overall. So that says a lot. It's all about the player development team. And should the Warriors have a later first round pick from Indiana, I don't think Indiana will be too upset that they gave up that first round pick, especially if it's a pick next year. It's not the end of the world. And giving up a backup, an overqualified backup to get a starter in the middle and really help them just take the scoring load off of a guy like Pascal Siakam while they wait for Halliburton to return is a big plus for the Pacers, especially when they can re-sign Vucevic after next year for a more team-friendly contract than what they would have had to deal with for Miles Turner. So I'd say it's a win-win scenario for all the teams involved, and I really think that the Warriors should approach Indy with this idea. Now, that's all we have today for Warriors Latest. As always, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you don't like this trade, feel free to comment below with better ideas on what the Warriors should trade Jonathan Kuminga for, as I love hearing your ideas and commenting them on this show as well. Now, as always, go Dubs.